Hello, fellow politicos. I just got back from my second candidate forum for the various statewide candidates that are running for office or going to be running for office in the 2020 election cycle. Tonight's forum was put on by the Guilford County Republican Party. Of course, that is my home county, so a little bit of home field advantage, and it's nice. It's nice for me to travel 2 or 3 hours and go to new places I've never been before and see really great scenery around the state. But also some days too, it's nice just hang around the house, and then you go to the headquarters, and it takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to drive there. But on the way back, it only takes you like 7 minutes to get home, because when I drive into the headquarters, I have to take a special way, because if I go the most direct way, I'm gonna have to turn left. And over the weekend, I was going to another event at the headquarters, and trying to turn left there is off of West Friendly is no bueno, too much traffic, and I almost tore my tires up because I squealed them so hard because I was trying to make this left turn before this other. It's just hard making left turns without traffic light, But on the way home, I turn right, and then I make another right, and then 5 minutes later, I'm home. So there you go. Anyway, tonight we had a candidate forum. These were all Council of State candidates. And what I like about this forum is, compared to the last one I went to in Chatham County back in September, this forum was a lot better. It was one focus, and it was Council of State candidates. Your Secretary of Agriculture, State Auditor, Secretary of State, Labor Secretary. There might have been a couple more, but tonight was a lot more focus. The Chatham County one, you had like every single candidate who was running in 2020 from U.S. Senate all the way down. But tonight was just Council of State races. And I thought that was really great. Each candidate had 4 minutes to speak, which was the same as the Chatham County event. But the exciting thing about this event was we had a question and answer segment at the end. Okay, and I also thought the candidates were a little bit more well polished in their information. Like at the Chatham County event, a lot of the 4 minute speeches were very introductory in nature. Like, hi, my name is Bob, and I'm running for blah blah blah. I have a wife and 2 wonderful kids, and I got my bachelor's degree from Appalachian State, and I went to law school at Campbell, and Tonight it was a lot more about, if you're elected, what the heck are you going to do if you get elected? If you're elected to the position, blah blah blah. Okay. So we start off the Council of State, this Council of State forum, with a candidate that has been serving for a while, and it's Steve Troxler, the Commissioner of Agriculture. He is going to try to win his 5th term as Commissioner of Agriculture. Excuse me. Okay. And what was neat about his run in 2016 for his 4th term was that, believe it or not, Steve Troxler got more people voted for Steve Troxler than any other GOP candidate, going from Trump all the way down to soil and water person. I can't talk tonight. Ugh. I'll try though. Okay. But he also got more votes than any other Democrat candidate too. And I'm just a little bit befuddled because Steve Troxler, he's really not a guy who you see out and about at various events around the state. He's just a guy. He does his job as agriculture commissioner. He just does his job, and then you never see him again for 4 years till it's time for him to be reelected. And I'm not really into those kind of people. You know, I think that, hey, listen, you got elected. People voted for you to do a job. So you do your job, but you also hang out with the people who got you elected in the first place. And you try to be accessible, okay? You know, and this next thing really blew me away about Steve Troxler. I thought that he lived like somewhere in the east part of the state, maybe central east, like Johnson County or Nash County, one of those counties just east of Raleigh. But no, this will really blow your mind. He lives in the same county I do. He has a farm over in the Brown Summit area. So yeah, he's on the other side of the county, probably a good 20 or 30 minutes away. But you know how many functions, how many Guilford County GOP functions he's been to in the year and a half I've now lived in Guilford County. You know how many functions I've seen him at, and I go to every single meeting. I missed one in August, but I go to every single monthly meeting. Anytime they have a candidate forum, anytime they have any kind of workshops, you know, I don't go to the fancy schmancy dinners, but mind you, but anything that's free or relatively inexpensive that's political in Guilford County, you know, for a conservative cause, I go to, obviously. You know how many events Steve Troxler has attended in Guilford County? 0. Yeah, I know. It's just hard to believe. But as of right now, he is the only Republican running for agriculture commissioner, okay? Or Secretary of Agriculture, whatever you want to call that office. He's the only Republican running. The Democrats, you know, I'm not a fan of a person who's been in office for a really long period of time. But the problem is, Democrat candidates, whoever the Democrat candidate is, they're always going to come out with, well, we have to. It's all about, you know, carbon dioxide, cap and trade. We have to put more regulations on these farmers. I'm like, no. So at the end of the day, even though I'm not a big fan of Steve Troxler, if he's the Republican nominee, yes, I'm going to vote for him, okay? Okay, now I'm going to stop saying like ER now and go to the next part of the forum. Next candidate running for office was Anthony Street, who's running for state auditor. And this is a candidate who I think is one of the most hardest working candidates out there. I mean, he lives in Holden Beach in the southeast corner of the state. Yet I see him, he was at Chatham County a couple months ago. You know, he's in Raleigh all the time. He's over in the mountains. Yeah, anytime I'm on Facebook, which almost every day, he's always in some other corner of the state. It's really great to see a guy who's so passionate, who wants the job so bad. Okay, it's great to see that desire in Mr. Street. And also got to say that he's really improved his shtick on the campaign trail. In other words, his public speaking and everything like that. He's really improved tremendously. But the first part of his speech, he really brought out the fact that, you know, the Word of God has to be front and center in everything we do in society. He also referenced, you know, his relationship with Jesus Christ is first thing in his life. Second thing in his life is the NCGOP and serving in that. He mentioned, you know, we're at a social, moral, cultural crisis in this nation as well. And he says, look, he's going to put the pressure on the legislature to spend money as efficiently as possible, right? I mean, when have we heard that from Beth Wood, who's the current auditor and who's a Democrat, right? Haven't heard that from her, have you? No, me neither. His best line in his shtick is, I don't like using the word, why did I use that? No. His most profound line in his whole speech is, look, you deserve to know where your tax money is being spent. I mean, yeah, that's the job of the auditor, right? Right. And he said, you know, lottery money should go to education. He brought that out as a point because guess what? People keep asking, everybody in this state asks, where's the lottery money going? Because you hear from everybody, parents, teachers, students, bus drivers, custodians, hot dog mascot wearers. You hear from everybody. We don't spend enough money in this state on education, you know? Yet we have this lottery that was created about 13, 14 years ago, and that's supposed to answer all our problems, but it has clearly not. Also, despite the fact that education spending has gone up a lot under Republican leadership in the legislature, still there's people out there crying over the spilled milk that is the lack of education spending, apparently. Okay. The next candidate on our list is another candidate run for auditor, and this is a new candidate in the race. New candidate. Where's my thing here? Tim Hogemeyer. And yeah, fortunately he pronounced his name, because I look at his name like, what? Tim G. Mayer? Huh? No, it's Hogemeyer. Tim Hogemeyer, another candidate run for state auditor. Says, look, the size of the state budget is $24 billion. And the auditor's office has oversight over the whole state budget. You know, he wants to keep taxes low and government small, and he has worked under the last two state auditors, so he definitely has experience. Les Merrick, who was the auditor in the 2000s, pretty much. And then the next auditor, Beth Wood, Democrat Beth Wood, he worked under Beth Wood, believe it or not, for 10 years. 10, 11 years, right? And yeah. And then back in August he said, you know, Beth, I'm resigning and I'm running to take your job. I mean, that takes guts right there, right? You know, ooh, wow. Okay. I do have an update on Sammy Webb. Remember, as recently as last summer, Sammy Webb was going to run for state auditor. He is a very good and effective African American conservative activist who lives up in the Rocky Mount area, maybe a little east of there, but we'll say Rocky Mount just because that's the major city in that region of the state. Apparently, I saw on Facebook that he is now going to run for a state legislature position. So this race right now is, as of right now, and again, things can change because candidate filing begins on December 2nd and it goes for about 3 weeks. So nothing is official yet with these races until after, I believe it's the 21st or 23rd December, somewhere around there, but nothing is official until after that. But right now it's between Anthony Street and Tim Hogemeyer. I have to admit that right now, and this is not an official endorsement or set in stone, but right now I would have to lean towards Anthony Street. You know, to me, I like people that are hardworking, and I like people who are you know, come from the more of the rural, far-flung corners of the state, and not so much a person who is like, hey, I live in the Raleigh suburbs, man, vote for me, right? Okay, our next candidate is Ronald Pierce, another very hard-working candidate. I've been to probably now, since this whole, you know, since the beginning of March of this year, I've been to about 20 conventions / forums around the state. You know how many times that the current insurance commissioner, who is a Republican, the current commissioner of insurance is Mike Halsey. Thank you, brain. Mike Halsey. You know how many events Mike Halsey has been to that I've been to? 1 out of about 20. You know how many events Ronald Pierce has attended out of 20? If he's missed more than 5, then I would be very surprised. Probably about 15 out of 20, which is very good. Very good. Ronald Pierce, you know, he is a very, his personality, he's like a bulldog. He's very, doesn't take crap from anybody. Very, very aggressive. And frankly, the way that Mike Halsey has been running the Commissioner of Insurance, and considering the fact that Mike Halsey doesn't go to these forums hardly ever, I would probably have to give the edge to Ronald Pierce. But let me tell you some of what he did tonight. Visual aids. He had these visual aids, these two little poster boards that he brought along when he was talking to tell you like what he was going to do as Secretary of Insurance. This first one that he said really spoke directly to me, and that is to stop using your credit rating to write an insurance policy. Now, this is personal experience, but this speaks for a lot of people, especially the lower income people like yours truly, right? Did you know that, depending on what state you're in North Carolina, they can do this. Florida, they can also do this. A lot of other states, they do this, unfortunately. But did you know that an insurance company can use your credit score? And if you have a good credit score, you'll pay less in insurance. If you have a bad credit score, you'll pay more. And they'll use that to write, especially an auto insurance policy. If you're a very good driver, have a clean driving record, no accidents, no tickets, whatever, yet your credit score is very bad, you could pay as much as somebody who is a lousy driver but has a great credit score. It doesn't make any sense. And tonight was the first time that Ronald Pierce or Mike Halsey has mentioned that, look, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to say stop to these insurance companies. Stop using your credit information to determine how much you're going to pay in insurance. I mean, this is a great thing. And this, I would have to say that, I'm going to make an endorsement. I'm going to endorse Ronald Pierce. Okay, Ronald Pierce is my guy for Secretary of Insurance. You heard it here first, folks. Okay. Another thing he's going to do is get rid of this rate bureau. This is sort of one of these, little country clubs in the insurance industry that determines what companies can come into North Carolina and do business with their insurance. That's why I don't think it's Progressive or Allstate or one of those companies that they cannot come into North Carolina and do business. One of these big companies. I forget who it is, but yeah. And Mike Halsey, when he was running in 2016, says, look, I'm going to get rid of the rate bureau. But Ronald Pierce said he is not. Okay. And Ronald Pierce mentioned that, the state legislature has passed legislation to get rid of the rate bureau. But guess who's holding it up? Mike Halsey. Yeah. And also, there's been a big problem with currently using unlicensed building inspectors in the state, too. And one of the big functions of the Secretary of Insurance office is overseeing your building inspectors around the state. And guess what Ronald Pierce does for a living? He's a licensed contractor who specializes in getting homes rebuilt after a natural disaster. Okay, so yeah, I would say Ronald Pierce is very qualified. Now some people may be a little standoffish or a little bit, may not like his style very much because he's very aggressive. He's a very aggressive speaker. He's very loud when he talks, but I mean, you have a guy who knows what he's talking about, and frankly, to me, that speaks volumes. Okay, our next candidate for office is Secretary of Labor, and I'm talking to you about Mr. Josh Dobson. And I've heard some very good things about Josh Dobson. The Daily Haymaker wrote a lot of positive things about him. But tonight, I thought his speech was a little flat. It just wasn't what I was hoping he would say. I mean, yeah, you only get 4 minutes, but still, the 4 minutes needs to be your elevator pitch. You gotta sell yourself, folks. He mentioned he was a state representative, Avery, Mitchell County, the Grandfather Mountain area, in his fourth term. He has been endorsed by Mark Meadows, who's a guy I like a lot, and then he's also been endorsed by Steve Troxler, who's a guy who I don't like so much. So that's a wash. And then he mentioned he's a former corrections officer, and when he was a former corrections officer, he'd help pay his way through college. He says that we all walk in together and we all walk out together, and he wants to apply that to safety as Secretary of Labor. He did not mention anything about how he worked with the Wycliffe Bible translators, nor did he talk anything about how he worked in retail for like 10 years as well. So a little bit, yeah, I'm not feeling Josh Dobson. Now, I'm going to give him another chance, and we'll see, but Pearl Burris Floyd, the next candidate that spoke tonight, really hit a home run with me tonight. If I had to vote right now, yeah, I would vote for Pearl Burris Floyd over Josh Dobson. But again, I'm going to give Josh Dobson another chance. His speech tonight was a little bit too establishment RNC talk heavy, and it wasn't so much. I didn't really, know Josh Dobson, the candidate. So, but Pearl Burris Floyd is African American lady. And she talked about this, how it's like people go up to her like, how in the world are you Republican? But she has won every single race that she has won as a Republican. Yeah, she's won every single electoral race she has run as a Republican, and she has won them all. She's been a county commissioner and a state legislature, and I think a couple other things that I forgot to write down. But she grew up in Gaston County, which used to be a big textiles company, now is more of a suburban bedroom county for Charlotte. But she learned how to make things, and she served as Joint Commission Inspector, also a lab inspector. She was on the North Carolina Safety Committee, and she checked every medical center in North Carolina. She also currently serves on the UNC Board of Governors. She mentioned that, there's a lot of controversy on that. She wasn't shy about that, I should say. But she also mentioned, hey, we need to stay a right-to-work state. So, Pearl Burris Floyd, very, very well done, I will say, on that. Okay. Secretary of State race. 3 candidates. There might be a couple more, but there were 3 that spoke tonight. First one was Chad Brown. I have a special place in my heart for him because I'm watching the football game. Chad Brown, special place in my heart because he used to be a pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles. He was in their minor leagues for a few years. I don't think he ever made the majors, but still, he was an Orioles farmhand, and the Orioles are my team, okay? He was a former mayor of Stanley, North Carolina. He's currently commissioner of Gaston County. And what I thought was pretty cool is he actually stepped down from chairman of the Gaston County Commissioners he stepped down to the role of vice chairman in Gaston County because he didn't think he was doing an effective enough job. I mean, when's the last time you've heard an elected official say, look, I'm going to resign because I'm doing a crappy job, right? Almost never, right? Yeah. So props to Mr. Brown on that. And he wanted to mention that he's the only elected official who's running in the Secretary of State race, too, on the Republican side, at least. And then he started to mention the 300 notaries, but that was it. Our next candidate, Michael Pagley, who I've talked about a lot because he has been everywhere in the state, another hardworking candidate, brought the notary issue up and talked a lot more about it than Brown did. But it used to be that in order to become a notary in North Carolina, you used to have to get a signature from an elected official in the county that you lived in. Okay, but the current Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall, aka Shady Elaine, was able to get that law repealed. Okay, so now there have been 300 illegal notaries in the state of North Carolina, And these notaries, well, they provide a notary stamp. And you're probably asking yourself, well, conservative Pelican, what is so important about a notary stamp? I'll tell you. First thing, these notary stamps can verify a person's identity. Okay, you also can get a notary stamp transfer of property if you're selling a house or selling a car. Okay, oh yeah, but the most important thing is they can authorize with a notary stamp that if you get a notary stamp, this can be able to authorize any absentee ballot. And that last point just blew me away. I was like, oh, wow. Can you say voter fraud, right? Okay, and the next candidate was E.C. Sykes, the candidate. But the person, E.C. Sykes was not there. It was his wife, Susan, that was speaking. There are a couple things I like about E.C. Sykes. He's very, he's a devout Christian, and he's not shy about it. He was one of the big campaign people for Ted Cruz in 2016 in North Carolina. His wife spoke, and she, as far as her speaking and her cadence and her vocals, she did very good. But the kind of thing she talked about was kind of not, in my opinion, not necessarily related to the Secretary of State position so much as she didn't do as good a job as Mr. Brown or Mr. Pavley. Let's put it that way. But I'll tell you though, she asked people, does this candidate have your core values? Sykes has been a church deacon, was in the youth ministry, has also served as a foster parent. He's also served in crisis pregnancy centers. And then towards the end of the speech, Susan mentioned that her husband has skills to be Secretary of State because he's been CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He's cut costs. He's managed people. He's also been able to manage a very rapidly growing company too. But then, unfortunately, after that statement, I was thinking, Sykes looks okay. But then she mentioned something that really ticks me off. She said the person with the most money always wins in politics. And I'm like, bet me. Mr. Mrs. Sykes, where have you been? Okay, let's see. The person with the most money always wins in politics. Let's see. Let me tell you a few instances where you're wrong. How about, he was the person who knocked off Eric Cantor in Virginia. I can't think of him. Crap, I should know this. The person that knocked off Eric Cantor in Virginia, that congressman, whatever his name is, I forget now. Also, Ted Cruz, by the way, was outspent like 100 to 1 against David Dewhurst. He won his Senate seat. Oh, but the most money always wins in politics, right? No. Oh, how about Dan Forrest in the lieutenant governor's race back in 2012 against the establishment? I hate calling him establishment because he's a darn good treasurer, Dale Folwell. Dan Forrest, 0 name recognition, 0% in the polls, 0 cash on hand. Dale Folwell had a lot more. Oh, but money always wins in politics, right? Wrong. Sorry. I don't know what Mrs. Sykes was thinking, but I'm just, that kind of statement will make you lose a race. Right now, in this Secretary of State race, I have to tell you, I would have to vote for Michael Paglia. He's the most polished. He knows what he's talking about again. Oh, yeah, in 2016, he became the first Republican candidate to pull the closest to a candidate since Richard Petty. Yes, the race car driver in 1996 ran for Secretary of State in North Carolina, and he was the closest candidate in a while. But then Paglia came along in 2016, and he got 48% of the vote. He got this race closer than it's ever been in years, since 96. So, yeah. Paglia, I think I'm going to vote for him. Yeah. Okay, then we had our judicial candidates, and At the Chatham County Forum, I'll admit that the judicial candidates, they took way too much time to speak. But tonight, they had one person, Judge Fred Gore, who drove all the way from the southeast part of the state, Bladen, Brunswick, Columbus County area, all the way to Greensboro, well over 3-hour drive, just to say a few words about the judicial candidates, and it only took 5 minutes. In Chatham County, they had all 8 candidates, I believe, speak, and it took like 45 minutes. And it took time away from the the Republicans who are in contested primaries. As of right now, all the Republican judicial candidates are not in contested primaries. Remember that. But Judge Fred Gore won his seat in 2016, and he was the first candidate to take on the status quo candidate since 1981. And look, Judge Fred Gore said, look, all these wonderful candidates for council state, if they win, great. But it doesn't mean a darn thing unless you elect conservative judges, because conservative judges will protect conservative policy. Okay, just look what's happened with this voter ID. State legislature is Republican. They passed it back in 2013. McCory signs it. Super majority legislature, Republican governor, sign it. Okay, and then here come the courts. Unfortunately, the courts are Democratic leaning. They throw it out. Oh, but then the Republicans say we're going to put it on the ballot in 2018. It passed with 57% of the vote. Personally, I wish it was a lot higher, like 77% of the vote. 43% of people don't think we need voter ID for elections. That's just hogwash. The heck are they thinking? But yeah, and then unfortunately it goes back to the courts again, and the courts say no. So it's like, oh yeah, Lucy with the football and Charlie Brown. The next part of our forum was a question and answer portion, and I was a little disappointed because there were really only 3 questions. 2 were insightful, and then one was kind of just a little dessert question, I should say. So I wish, if you all have the opportunity to ask questions, please ask questions, because those of us who are introverts like me, we want to know as much as we can about these people. But as an introvert, it's not in my personality or my will to actually ask the questions. Yeah, you get my drift? Okay. One question I was asked was, how do you improve the state auditor office? And I'll admit that Tim Hagemeyer, he danced around the question way too much, but his answer was, well, we need to when he was under Beth Wood, he oversaw the fraud investigative unit. Okay, and he says we need to go after the big ticket items on these audits, whatever that means. He didn't mention, just said big ticket items. Wants to work with the FBI, which is good. Oh yeah, but he wanted to mention that he's been endorsed by the last 2. He's been endorsed by Steve Troxler again. It's like, if you've been endorsed by Steve Troxler, I'm like, all of a sudden you're God or something. I don't know. Anyway, but he was also endorsed by Chuck Stuber, the 2016 GOP nominee for the auditor position, and he's been endorsed by Les Merrick. So he's been endorsed by a lot of auditor people, for whatever that's worth, right? But he wanted to mention that in his question. I don't know about this Tim guy. Nice guy, shook my hand and everything, introduced himself, but I'm just not feeling it, Mr. Hagemeyer. I'm not feeling it. Okay. Anthony Street had a much better, well-polished answer. He said, look, the auditor's got to be the watchdog in the state government. And also, the auditor's got to do a much better job of educating the public. And he says, the auditor's got to steer your tax dollars to more important things and stay away from all the pork barrel spending. But the one thing that ticked him off the most was that you never hear any public communication come from Beth Wood's office. Okay, I almost said Beth Cooper. That was a movie about 10 years ago, with Hayden Panettiere. Yeah. She's kind of cute, by the way. Yeah, I Love You, Beth Cooper. That was a great movie. Came out about 10, 11 years ago now. Didn't do too well at the box office. That's probably why you never heard of it, but very good. But Beth Wood is the Democrat, or who's currently the state auditor for North Carolina. Beth Wood. Not Beth Cooper, Beth Wood. Okay, and the other question was, why are illegal notaries not being stopped by the courts? Mr. Paglia. Question was directed right at him. Well, it's because these illegal notaries are a civil crime. They're not a criminal one. In other words, the criminal crimes are higher on the priority list than the civil crimes. And also, you mentioned that Elaine Marshall eliminated the citizenship question. And now it's like, well, if you're not a U.S. citizen, that's okay. Just provide documentation that you at least have a job somewhere. And then Sykes mentioned, Mrs. Sykes mentioned, well, it's more of a legislative issue. We've got to get, more Republicans in the legislature. Chad Brown said, look, the Secretary of State's got to put more pressure and more heat on the legislature. So, yeah, in that instance, yeah. Well, Paglia, again, really did a good job of separating himself from the other candidates. And then the final question of the evening, and you knew it was coming if you've been to any of these Republican primary forums. You know it's coming. Come on now, you know it's coming. And that is from Ernie Whitborn, who was past chairman of the Guilford County Republican Party from 2015 to 2017, I believe, somewhere in there. And he's also serves on the state executive committee for District 13, along with yours truly, right? But Ernie Whitborn mentioned he had the last word, and he asked all the candidates in the room, will you support whoever wins the primary in the general election? And he wanted to ask, everybody, a bunch of people went, yeah, of course, yes. But then he said, are any candidates not going to do that? And no candidate spoke, so that's a good sign. It's good to have unity in the general election. And, look, I'm the type of person, I want these primaries, I want people to duke it out and just, blow each other up, whatever. Not literally, okay? I'm saying, just if a person's wrong on an issue, say they're wrong on an issue. Don't be all, patty cake. Go after them in a primary, okay? But after the primary is over and the votes are tallied and the results are certified, then you turn your dukes, your punches to the Democrats, okay? Right. Okay, wow. A 40-minute video. Not too shabby. I am the conservative Pelican. I'll have another video up next few days on the Young Republicans quarterly meeting. And then just 2 weeks from Saturday, I'll be in Raleigh at the State Executive Committee meeting. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be on the docket at that meeting, I will say. So stay tuned for that. And of course, I still got to talk about the state convention. Yeah, I got a lot on my plate. I don't know when I'll get to it, but who knows. Blah, blah, blah. For the Conservative Pelican, I am Bobby Crawford. Bye-bye, everybody.